Bernie fans. So this is Jeff Epstein, Citizens Media TV. I am here with my roommate who was 20 feet away from Bernie Sanders when the walkout all began. So I wanted to get his perspective on what happened and how it started, because I wasn't on the floor. I was out of the entire floor section. I was in the hallway upstairs. I had just done an interview, and then all of a sudden I saw all these people coming up and screaming Bernie and walking out. So I got sucked up into it. So here we go. So, all right. So, Richard. Good morning, Richard.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Rich McFarlane. I'm a delegate for the state of New Jersey, and this is what happened from my perspective. I'm a New Jersey delegate.
Tell us your perspective. I mean, tell us the geographics of where, the situation.
Okay, the Vermont delegation is seated right next to the New Jersey delegation, and so I was sitting down watching the roll call. It took a while. Each state was saying how many votes. First they gave a little speech, then they said how many votes went to Hillary and how many votes went to Bernie. When they got to Vermont, the Vermont delegation said we'll pass, and I didn't really understand what they were talking about. Then they went and did all the rest of the states, and the rest of the states said how many votes went to each one.
Well, actually, if I may, before you get to the Bernie and Vermont thing, can you give us an example, very roughly, of what each state said?
Each state was, first they were talking about the greatness of their own state. They would say, this is North Carolina, the Hawkeye state. We're great for these 5 different reasons. And if they were from North Carolina, they said first in flight, stuff like that. And then they would say the number of votes Hillary got and the number of votes Bernie got. And they kept it relatively short. They kept it like about a minute or so. They're trying to get this done quickly, I imagine, because I've heard in years past that it took much longer. Then the Vermont delegation passed, and then what happened is everybody saw Bernie come out. Right after they were almost at the very last state, Bernie came out and sat down. And
in the Vermont delegation?
Right in the Vermont delegation. I could barely see him. I had to move my head around to see him. He was 20 feet from me.
He was surrounded by news and whatever.
Yeah, the news people were in front of him, but there were only people in between me and him, so I could see him.
Not news people, but a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of delegates were between me and him, and it was I could just barely see him. Then he, when it came to, they said, okay, we're going to go back to Vermont. Then
go back to Vermont. So what did they do why did they say pass, or what happened with the pass?
When it became Vermont's turn in alphabetical order to be the state that was going to say their words and how many votes Hillary got and Bernie got, instead of doing any of that, they said we'll pass. At first I thought it was some kind of protest from the Vermont
people.
Wanted
to go last.
Yeah, they
wanted to be the final.
And yes, they were going to be the final one, and that was their plan. Obviously, if Bernie came out, it was a pre-planned event. And so after the last state spoke, and then it went back to Vermont. All the cameras were on Bernie. He had come out and was sitting there, and the crowd was cheering Bernie the whole time. Then
Do you remember the woman Shyla who gave the speech from Vermont?
No.
Shyla gave a speech on the stage from Vermont. I was going to ask you if you knew, you happened to realize he was sitting next to her. Was he? Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, I don't particularly remember her. I was caught up in
Vermont. Okay, go ahead.
I was caught up in looking at Bernie, and this is a very emotional time and a very incredible thing. It was unplanned. I didn't know Bernie was going to be 20 feet from me, and otherwise I would have been closer to him to see. Now, what happened is he spoke. He said what he was going to say about what he said. The exact things he said, I don't know. But that could be seen somewhere. But then he finished saying what he was going to say, and he walked away. And after he walked away,
I'm curious. Did he walk down the stairs?
No.
Up the stairs?
He turned around and walked straight back. And
up the stairs into the hallway.
Yeah, he walked up the stairs into one of the I guess a special hallway for him to leave on, which they normally don't let us go up that way. where we're sitting, where the New Jersey people are sitting, if you try to go too high, sometimes they say, no, you can't go this way, you got to go back. And so you just turn around. There's places they don't let you go. And so what I did is, well, he turned around and walked away and was gone. Then what happened, and I had no prior knowledge that any of this was going to happen. I was surprised by this. Everybody started walking out, and it was everybody all at once.
Can you describe that pretty specifically, like from your perspective? You know, was it just everybody stood up and started going, or was it a few people that led, or was it, how did it happen? Like, did you notice what states did you notice first?
It happened in the way. No, it was. This is what I heard. I read about this on Facebook last night. That it really didn't have a leadership, the movement to walk out, but they were talking about it, and they managed to do it quietly amongst everybody.
Talking meaning the talking about the planning.
Yeah, they had planned it amongst themselves, and I wasn't part of the planning.
I was added to a Facebook group that announced it about an hour before it happened, and I had no clue that it was so well accepted, or that so many people wanted to do it. And I'm part of me, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I thought, because I honestly, I was partially like, well, I don't think many people will really want to do this. And also, I think it's possible that not too many people wanted to participate, or not wanted, but maybe didn't know about it, but that a bunch of leaders started moving, and it just swept everybody up, and everybody got convinced to do it.
Yeah, once I saw all my friends walking outside, I didn't really know what was going to happen or what was going on. I said, well, let's see what they're doing, because that was the most interesting thing going on right then. You know, everybody's walking out.
What was it like in New Jersey? Like, how many people got up in New Jersey?
It seemed like all of them, but I don't know if it was all of them or not. There's only, probably 48 New Jersey delegates, and I don't know how many were there. For Bernie, yeah. 48 Bernie delegates.
So when you noticed none of your friends were still sitting as everybody else was walking?
No, it seemed like everybody just walked out.
And how empty did the New Jersey feel at that point?
No, when I left, it was still, there was a lot of people down on the floor who were walking up the stairs and using the stairs to leave. So the whole place, it was a mass exit. It wasn't like a few hundred people walked out. My guess is like 1,400 people walked out.
My estimate when I was first outside, my estimate was 500. But I heard that from news people that it's 1,000. That 1,000 delegates walked out.
That could be very. I would say that 400 is way too low.
I heard 200. There's no way.
There's no way. It was way more than 200.
I thought 500, but the estimate seems to be hovering around 1,000.
It might be. 1,000 sounds about right, but it could have been up to 1,400. Nobody will know for sure, but it was more than 1,000 people walked out. It took a long time to get out of the building, and so I walked out of the building just to see what was going to happen out there. I was wondering what is going on, but by the time I left the building, I knew that everybody's walking out as some kind of a protest. Now, it got more interesting.
Hold on, before you tell us more interesting, I want to answer a couple questions I'm seeing here on the feed. So, are we leaving? We are going to the convention center. There is a Sanders. This is a question from Ashley. We're going to the convention center, which is not the Wells Fargo Center. We're going to the Wells Fargo Center in South Philly. We're going to the convention center in Center City, where the Sanders campaign is having a how to continue the movement kind of conference. So, let's see. You're following from Peru, but I don't feel like going back to the United States. No, we need you so we can create the government that we deserve.
Yes, this is a political revolution, and we need you too. We need everybody.
So, are we going back to the convention? I am actually going back to the convention. I mean, we walked out. I wasn't among the people that chose to walk out, but I got swept up in it, and I wanted to cover it. I wanted to stream it, so I ended up being there.
And that's my experience too.
But I did not choose to participate in it. But you would think that walking out means you walked out and you're gone for the entire convention. So who knows? But I'm personally, I am going back. I'm curious. I want to see it through. I'm not going to stay for Barack Obama's speech tonight just because I'm tired. But other than that, I'm staying from opening gavel until Barack Obama speaks because I want to see what's going on. Anything else? Let's see. Why is the bus empty? Well, we're going to the convention center. We're not going to the Wells Fargo Center. There's just people who want to go to extra stuff. So we're at the back of the bus. I mean, if the front of the bus has people in it.
15 people.
Yeah.
There's other places to go besides today's event.
Yeah, people are going to the Constitution Center, which is where the historical stuff is. All right, so Richard, so you said...
Oh yeah, when I got outside of the building, it got more interesting. It seemed that the first group of people who walked out walked into one of these gigantic media tents. And I guess
it was a building. It was maybe a temporary building.
Yeah, it's a temporary building. It looked like a big tent to me. I'd have to look at it again to see if it was a piece of cloth or not. But it had all desks inside of it and all kinds of media people inside. So I went up there, and they had walked inside. And by the time I got there, there was cops in front of the door, and the cops weren't letting any more people go in or any people go out. And so then what happened is more and more cops showed up. And then more cops showed up until there was about...
Philadelphia police were lined up in front of the press building, and then state police almost immediately showed up on the side.
Yeah, they called up every cop within a few miles, and they all came. So there was, I would say, hundreds of cops there.
Well, no, I don't agree with that. I would say that there was maybe 40 cops.
When I say hundreds, I'm really including all the ones that were milling about as well, not immediately in front of where the media tent was, the media place. There was like 40. But then if you walked around, there's cops milling around everywhere.
Yeah, well, they got really nervous, I'm sure.
So there's 40 immediately that you could see that were all in a little line there. And then if you walked around, you saw cops just milling about and standing there, because they had cops from all over around, and you could just walk up and talk to them. But so what happened is the people were still inside of the media center there, and you couldn't really have any contact with them. And we were wondering what's going to happen now.
Contact with who?
With the
people
Bernie delegates inside of the building. I didn't know what was going to happen. We were wondering, well, what's going to happen? And the cops were going in there and negotiating with them. Now, this is what I read on Facebook. Because the movement to walk out didn't have a specific leader, and they had difficulty negotiating with the dozens of people who were there, because they all individually decided to walk in there, and there was no specific leader to talk to. So it was difficult for them. They
negotiate in what sense? Negotiate.
They were trying to get them to walk out of the building. Now,
to get them.
Yeah, when they were inside of the building, when they did get out and I talked to them, a lot of them had tape over their mouth when they walked out. So a lot of them were crying. But the ones who talked to me said that we're political prisoners. They wouldn't let us out. I said, what do you mean they wouldn't let us out? They said we wanted to go out. They wanted to go in and get interviewed by the people, and they did get what they wanted. Hey, we're under a tunnel right now. That's why it went dark. They said for like the whole hour they were in there, everyone got interviewed endlessly. So there's a million hours of interview tape that the major media is never going to show. But they were interviewed the whole time, and then eventually they all came walking out. And there's no arrests that I know of.
There was a lot of tension, but there was not even minor incidents that I'm aware of.
There was no violence.
I mean, I have a really, really long stream from it last night on Citizens Media, which you can find two parts, and there was nothing negative, violence related that happened at all, not even a little bit. A couple more questions. So,
go ahead.
This is from Domino. I saw multiple videos of marching in different. Hold on, I can't see this. So from Domino, I saw multiple videos of marching in different locations in Philly. Did they get violent, as far as you know?
I have.
We went to in part 2 of my walkout coverage last night, which you can see. We went to the march. We joined the march, which was right across the street. They came from City Hall, but they went right to FDR Park, which is right across the street from Wells Fargo Center, and we joined them. And there are two things that I heard from the marchers that, as far as difficulties, violence, which was, number one, there was people that put paper on the ground and set it on fire. I didn't see any of this, but they're an organization that set paper on fire on the ground. I hadn't heard anything. I was actually 200 feet away when it happened, and I didn't even know that it happened, and it was already cleaned up by that point. So, and the other thing was a couple people climbed the security fences and they got maced. So, I mean, you're going to push the boundary that far, you know, something's going to happen. But other than that, I hadn't heard anything at all from any of the people in the park or the marchers about any difficulties at all with the police. And also, if you watch part 2 of my Dem walkout coverage, it ends up a really bizarre and beautiful moment where there's all these just peace, love, and understanding kumbaya people, and they just were singing and singing and singing with guitars, and they actually ended up surrounding me. So I was in the middle of this kumbaya, and I was just turning around and covering everyone, and it was just such a bizarre and interesting experience. So
yeah, but could we say bizarre and interesting kind of fits the description of my whole time here? This has been a bizarre, interesting experience for me. This whole convention, I was in no way prepared for any of this. There's things that don't understand happening just about all the time, because I'm not used to presidential nominations and campaigns. This one, I think, was different than a lot of the other ones. And there's things, not everybody calls Richmond what's going to happen, and I have a prediction. And I want every one of you watching this, when the day comes that this happens, I want you all to think of me. This is what's going to happen. In the next election or the election after that, you're going to see a debate happening, the second debate, and in the beginning of the debate, they're going to say, we were reviewing the footage of the previous debate, and this candidate got 1 more minute of talking time than the other ones did, so we're going to let the other candidate, to be fair, let the other candidate have a minute, and then we're going to begin the debate. Because I think what's going to happen is there's going to be scrupulously fair, or at least do the best that they can to appear to be so in the future, because this is a result of the people feeling that the primary season hasn't been fair. And then what's occurred is all of our suspicions, but we are being told that we are being paranoid about, we find out where we were right all along. And then Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you'd think that her having to resign from the Democratic National Committee would be enough. But actually, she got, the way a lot of people view this is she's gotten a promotion to work in Hillary Clinton's campaign. So obviously, it's not much of it's not viewed as
justice.
Yeah, it's not. Doesn't feel like justice.
Yeah, even if it is a symbolic position and not a high-profile position, it's not justice.
Yeah, we're not feeling that we've seen justice, and we feel that there's been a lot of injustice that's going on. And until that, I think what they're going to have to understand in future elections, if you make one candidate's followers feel that there's injustices going on, you can expect them to do something. It's my belief that this has been going on forever in politics, except what's new is guys like Jeff with a mobile phone that can interview people endlessly. What's new is social media. What's new is the cell phones that can take video. And I think these kind of injustices have been happening in politics in America for a long, long time, and I think it's going to come to an end, and America's going to become a better place because of it.
all right, so another question. Sutra, who that gentleman was, he was just a Bernie delegate, and there was just a lot of differing, conflicting information, and everything turned out fine. I was overly concerned because there was a long march, and maybe that march didn't exist, but it turned out that the march's destination was right across the street. So the march started at City Hall, but Nina Turner wasn't part of it. I think she might have been part of something earlier that morning, or maybe some other time, but she was not part of the march last night. Some of the delegates went to City Hall to try and join the march. They missed it. They took the train to City Hall, which was about 2 miles. There's a train that goes right from the Wells Fargo Center to City Hall. They missed it, They tried to catch up on the march on public transportation on the subway, and they missed it. But they ended up going to FDR Park again and joining us. That's where I went. I went to FDR Park, and the march was pretty much already there at that point. And it ended up just being people milling around and talking, and we heard Jill Stein talk. And so I don't think there was anything nefarious at all. It was just a lot of confusion. Let's see if there's any other questions. So, has Bernie ever stated his view on Monsanto? Pretty sure he's not a big fan, but I can't really answer that specifically. Ashley. Why was she hired by Hillary? It makes no sense. Yes, I agree with you. Especially, right on the very same day that she's fired, she's not fired. So that was a question from Domino. Who else? Read the emails. What's the burner delegates plan for today? I don't know. Well, Richard, what's your plan for today? It's the convention itself.
Right now I'm going to go to the Bernie meeting that's at 12:30, and then after that I'm going to have some lunch. Then I'm probably going to go back to the convention.
Do you think that most of the Bernie delegates are going to have lunch today?
Well, I think they're all going to have food and eat lunch, but I mean... My guess is that was an interesting question, but no, I believe...
Yes, all Bernie Sanders delegates have biological needs.
Yes. I believe that... I don't know how many are going to go back to the convention. I've spoken to a couple delegates who said that they're just going home now, and that they want nothing to do with it. I spoke to a lady who from New Jersey who has a 3-year-old daughter, and... she said that when she was at the convention floor, people were being rough with her and they're pushing her, and violence was being done to her by the Hillary campaign. But that's secondhand. You'd have to find her and interview her if you want to find it firsthand. But I think that there has been, I think what's going to happen is, my guess is I'm going to go there and there's going to be maybe half the Bernie delegation there, and that's my estimation. Maybe
you're going.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. This
is why I came here. I want to see this thing through. I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna go too. I want to go just to tell you guys what's happening in there. I'm not interested. Everyone can see the speeches. Anyone can watch the speeches. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the perception of the people that are sitting there. I actually would really like to ask some Hillary supporters their perspective of what happened. Actually, yesterday I spoke to, who's the platform, the African American gentleman who was on the head of the platform committee.
I have no idea.
The one that we booed, with the one that, not we, but a lot of people booed. And he was very insulted, and I can understand that, but from my point of view is that in any protest, what they do might be rude in the moment, but what they do is rude in the moment. How you protest might be rude and inconsiderate in the moment, but what's really important is what's behind that protest. So if you can be upset about the moment, if you're that person that's being protested against, but if you really want to make a change and you are going to go and find out what is behind that protest, no matter how rude it is, you are going to sit with them and find out the history and the grievances behind that protest. This is true in any protest throughout history, Black Lives Matter, women's movement, anything. That no matter what they do, there is a lot of history behind that, and unless you're going to take the time to do that, to sit with them and listen to them until they feel listened to, until they believe that you truly internalize what they think the solutions are, then you're not going to get anywhere. And honestly, when I spoke to this gentleman, I can't recall his name. Can someone help me out there? It was the one who announced that the platform was finalized. I'm pretty sure he was one of the head. He was an African American gentleman. Pretty sure he was active in the. Help me here, guys. So he was. I spoke to him privately. He didn't want to be on camera, and I said, "What was your reaction to that?" And he said he was, viscerally angry, like almost shaking and crying with how angry how disrespected he felt, and how angry he was at the people, and how much he's done for the party, and so on. And that's all fine, and I'm not contradicting anything that he's saying, but it's hard to. He doesn't seem to think that there is any other side. He's so angry at how his perception of the protest, the disrespect part of it, that he doesn't seem to be turning around and saying, yeah, that was horrible. I really didn't like that. I think that was really inappropriate, but we need to find out what's behind it. So are there any other questions? What do I expect to see today, Jenny? I expect to see a whole lot of nothing. And, but a lot of flash, a lot of very fancy stuff, and nothing exciting. But that's not the point. The point is to talk to all the people that are sitting around me and ask them what they think is going on, because that's what matters. And all right, so let's see, anything else out there? If it were not for the fact that Bernie has inspired me and so many of us, this is from Litha, to do the long work of shaking things up, this would be worse than when Bush stole the election. Thank you again for staying the course and seeing it through until the closing moments. Oh, I'm here to the end. You got it. This is not fun. This is not exciting. This is a job. You guys need to know what happens from our point of view, and we want you to know because you are the ones that actually care about our point of view. So that's our job. Thank you, Sarah. So if there's any questions out there, let me know. Richard had to get a phone call. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'll answer them. I'll stick around for a minute, and then we're going to stop, and I'm going to cover the Sanders Continuing the Revolution event that we're going to at the convention center. So I'll show you what's going on outside. Do you know, I wonder who that is, Citizens Media person. Do you know if Bernie plans on talking to the people at this, if you mean at this event with, that I'm on my way to, which is, I can't get out of this app, but it's Continuing the Revolution something from the campaign. I believe, I guess, that he will not be there. It's just going to be a conference on continuing the movement. Had Bernie reached out to you guys since the walkout? No, not at all. I mean, we're sort of still in the middle of it. You walk out of something, you would think that we walked out of the convention, not just one day of the convention, right? So, very curious what happens today. I got my credentials though, so it's not like people have been stripped of their credentials. However, before the walkout happened, long before the walkout happened, 600 or 800, according to Jordan Chariton of TYT Politics, 600 to 800 Bernie volunteers with credentials had their credentials stripped. They weren't allowed in the building. So I don't know what happened with that. I'm very curious to know what happened with that. We'll find out. So let's see. Anything else? Do you think that Bernie will take down his official website? I think we at least can enjoy that for a while more. I mean, they have the event stuff up there. They have the. I would think that why remove that for now? It's not like Bernie doesn't exist anymore. I don't see any reason to take it down. I mean, it has this whole platform there. So let's see. Anything else? I hope I'm very curious. This is from Domino. I'm very curious in how that's going to work out. I hope it's not to support Hillary. I mean, this is a Hillary party. We're really, we're the outsiders. So, all right, guys. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your questions. I will turn it on again when we get to the conference, and we'll keep talking. Get your questions ready. See you.